This time we will invite up our referee of the day, Kevin Clark, for our speaker panel.
All right, and we're going to invite our candidates to go on up and take a stool. That's exactly right. So we are joined today by Michael Baughman, DaRan Johnson, and Andrew Muchmore, Republican candidates for Oklahoma House District 34, which is in the heart of Stillwater. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for opening and closing statements. I will ask prepared questions with the candidates alternating going first. They will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. There will be no questions from the floor. And we will begin with an opening statement from Mr. Baughman. You have 90 seconds, and you're welcome to sit on the stools. You don't have to stand. All right.
Well, hey, y'all. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Michael Baughman. I'm, as you know, a candidate for House District 34. I'm a recent graduate from Oklahoma State University, and I'm also a recent graduate from public high school. I graduated high school in 2018 in Bartlesville. So I know the challenges that high schools are facing, like, for example, the education system between high schoolers and, frankly, teachers. They're frustrated with the curriculums that they are being given. And a lot of people want to blame teachers for the bad curriculum that's happening, but we need to really enhance the public education system. I am definitely for making sure that life skills classes get brought back into the high school system, teaching our kids how to sew again, how to cook, how to clean, how to write tax returns, how to balance a budget, how to negotiate a loan. And we may already have those courses inside Oklahoma, but I've been talking to so many of my high school friends that graduated high school, and they said it doesn't cut it. And I'm a prime example of that. I think we need to really enhance the life skills classes inside Oklahoma. We really need to bring back education. Another thing I want to do is to increase our farmland production and stopping the Chinese Communist Party from infiltrating our farmlands. And then I also really want to make sure that Oklahoma leads the charge in making sure that we stand up against the federal government. I think Oklahoma representatives need to do that, and they need to stand up for the citizens' rights and the state's rights of Oklahoma. So that's what I'm here for. My name is Michael Baughman. I humbly ask you to vote for me on June 28th. Thank you all so much for having me.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
Well, good afternoon. I'll make sure what time it was. My name is DaRan Johnson. I am running for House District 34, the same seat that all of us are running for. I am a local pastor, One Encounter Christian Center. We currently meet at the old Highland Park elementary school. I am a graduate of Rhema Bible College in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I also attended Moody Bible College in Chicago. I got into the race because I started seeing some concerns with my parishioners. You know, they were talking about the school and things that were going on. And so my number one is to protect our children. Our children's minds are being bombarded with so many things that a lot of us wouldn't know that happened because we didn't have to go through it in school. COVID-19, the drag queens trying to come in and put in our kids' mind that they should be transgenders and so many different things. So my number one issue is to protect our children and protect the minds of our children so they can just go to school and be free and play. Also, I want to empower parents, put the right back in the parents' hands to be able to grow their children, because you're the only one that should be able to do that. And then my last one is canceling the cancel culture, which is trying to close the mouth of the church and the parents. And so my name again is DaRan Johnson. I hope you vote for me today. When you leave out, go today and vote for me.
All right, Mr. Muchmore, 90 seconds.
I'm Andrew Muchmore. Sorry about that. I'm Andrew Muchmore, and you indeed can vote for me today, obviously at the county administration building. I am a lifelong Oklahoman. I have lived in Stillwater and the surrounding areas, maybe 30, 40 minutes away max my entire life. I'm an Oklahoma State University graduate. Go Pokes. This is a fun group, by the way. Not right now. You're listening and being attentive. That's appreciated. I'm a local business owner. I have Pioneer Termite and Pest Control. I am a father of 6. I've got a couple of older daughters that have started their own families. One's working on a PhD down at that other university that way. So we'll go there. The other is just giving me my first grandchild, a little son, pushing 5 months, I guess. He'll be in town this weekend. We're really looking forward to that. I have 6 children total, 4 boys in the house. They're all getting ready to go back into public schools in 3 different schools here at Stillwater Public Schools. So we've really had our eye on a lot of things that have been happening in the school. We love the school system. We love the teachers. It's an amazing, productive school system for our kids. Right here, we've got Oklahoma State University, an amazing technical school. We're proud to be here. I'm blessed to have an angel of a wife, my Jessie, at home. She's watching the 4 boys today. So being out of school, they didn't come. And I'll just wrap it up there and we'll move on to the questions.
All right. First question goes to Mr. Muchmore. Violence in schools, places of worship, and other public locations has become a national crisis. What should we be doing in Oklahoma to address this problem? And is arming teachers a piece of that solution?
Well, certainly that is huge. And being a father of 6, the safety of our kids, not just at school, throughout the community, the safety of my family, my friends, my neighbor, that certainly is a top priority. Addressing the schools directly, I mean, we're looking at the executive order that was put out just yesterday, filed. That's some immediate action that's being taken right now to help train our OHP and our police certified police officers in active shooter response techniques, offering up additional training for our educators and school staff, how to handle not only that particular situation, but help keep an eye on the kids and look for those factors that may be leading these kids down that path where they may need some additional help, mental health issues on that. As far as around the community, you know, we've got to get these kids to get their faces out of their phones, and that's not a legislative issue. That's a family issue. We need to raise our kids to recognize real life and not the internet so much. We need to not be afraid to hold people accountable for their actions, and we definitely need to hold people responsible for their actions. So I think the overall interaction of us as a community, as neighbors, as friends, is the basic key to that. And we can add the legislative assistance to that, which kind of falls in line with the executive order that was placed yesterday. I certainly agree with the basis of that executive order for immediate action.
All right, Mr. Baughman.
Yeah, so 3 things to tackle gun violence, specifically in schools. Number 1 is we need to end gun-free zones. I think it's completely bonkers that we have signs that tell active shooters that everybody in that building is a sitting duck. We need to end those, and frankly, even if it's a lie, say that people are armed. We need to have that in there. Number 2 is we need to open up background checks into people's juvenile records. Inner city gangs, I've been talking to people who are from Chicago. Inner city gangs actually use 18-year-olds to buy a firearm for them because they know the record is squeaky clean and they can't open a background check into their minor record. If you've committed a felony or a violent crime whenever you're a minor, you should be allowed to be able to look into that. And then finally, number 3, it's unfortunate, but whenever the gun thing has been taken out of schools, we've stopped teaching respect for a firearm in our schools. We need to have an optional gun safety course for students. We need to have respect for a firearm. And I think that many of our students have been taught not to respect life. I think those 3 things are paramount to ending gun violence in all forms.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, as a former behavioral specialist in school, I think that the problem is that we need to teach children conflict resolution, because conflict resolution will help them where they won't come inside the school and be so aggressive and ready to be an active shooter. Because if you go back to anybody who was an active shooter or mass shooting, they had bullying problems, they had home life problems, they had some kind of mental issue. And I think what we need to do is start teaching children how to deal with things and not give out participation trophies. I think that's one of the catalysts as well, because everybody's a winner. Everybody wins. I know it's 3 candidates up here. One of us has to win and one of us has to lose. I'm not going to come in here and shoot you guys up because I didn't win House District 34. And so I believe what that is that's conflict resolution, teaching them how to deal with situations, which I was taught when I was in school. Now, I don't want to say when I graduated high school, as a little while ago, but when I was in school, they taught us conflict resolution. Some win, some lose. These kids nowadays don't know that. Everything is a video game. Everything is a social media. They think everything's a game and a joke, and you get a second life. You don't. And so I think we need to teach conflict resolution and also gun safety in schools.
All right, Mr. Johnson, next question's yours. The relationship between a Republican governor and a Republican-controlled legislature has been tenuous. The legislature quickly overrode several vetoes prior to adjourning, including bills that allowed the Department of Public Safety to use tribal court convictions for motor vehicle offenses and require the governor's appointees and cabinet secretaries to file financial disclosures. Share with us your perspective on all of this.
Wow. So, 90 seconds? Man, this is the best church ever. Where do I begin? I believe, governors and legislation should work together. I believe they should work together because they move along the process. We have a process of things that have to go through, and I'm just going to get on this because I know I don't have a lot of time. But I think when Republicans work together, we can move things inside bills that happen. I mean, you think a bill goes into the House, and if we want to do something with the schools or help the kids to move it along, well, we need the House, the Senate, and the governor to work together to move those bills. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Mr. Muchmore. Sure. The relationship between a Republican governor and a Republican-controlled legislature has been tenuous. The legislature quickly overrode several vetoes prior to adjourning, including bills that allowed the Department of Public Safety to use tribal court convictions for motor vehicle offenses and require the governor's appointees and cabinet secretaries to file financial disclosures. Share with us your perspective on all of this.
Healthy arguments keep us moving in the right direction. When I say healthy arguments, I mean, let's bring the facts to the table, let's present it, and we're going to have to find a consensus on it. Now, the division of the government, obviously, as everybody knows, you've got the governor and the legislature and the judges that will ultimately rule on that. Those issues that you brought up, the tribal land issue, that's huge, ongoing, constantly changing. There's more to come on that. We have to, as we move forward, we have to respect the rights and the information that each side has, whether it's the tribal side or whether it's the state side, because a lot of those issues, we're going to wind up back up in the Supreme Court on a lot of those issues. I think the governor is moving forward in a direction that he sees fit. If he gets overridden, we've got a Republican majority that's going to get right back in his face. He had the right, and he calls him back into special session to see if we can make some advances on some certain things. Inflation was a major topic that was going on there. The House made some motions, but the Senate just kind of killed it right there. So I think that even though they're both Republican controlled, both the Senate, the House, the governor's seat, they're all controlled by conservative Republicans, but they're going to have differences of opinions. And those different opinions are going to bring things to light that we all need to think about and come to a consensus to move on.
All right, Mr. Baughman, same question.
Yeah, I just think that we need to make sure that we all work together and really not talk about the vetoes that the governor has done and the legislature overriding the vetoes. All of that is just a big garbly mess that we need to talk about issues that actually impact Oklahomans. Like, for example, the education system. I would much rather have a conversation about the education system in Oklahoma, better teacher pay, and actually have a legislation that everybody likes that investigates corruption in school boards across the county. I mean, you had school board members that only can call an audit to the state auditor. We need to make sure that the Secretary of Education can call an audit onto any school district. We have 520 school districts in Oklahoma. In one department in Payne County, we had $200,000 embezzled. That is enough to give 40 teachers a $5,000 pay raise. So I think the legislature needs to work with the governor and vice versa. And yes, they're going to have differences of opinion, but I think this is just politics. And politics, you have disagreements. And I just think a lot of people are making it a big deal about nothing. We just need to talk about issues that regular Oklahomans want.
All right, the next question goes to you, Mr. Baughman. There continue to be efforts nationwide to shift the power to redistrict legislative boundaries from state legislatures to citizens commissions. How do you believe redistricting should be handled in Oklahoma?
I think the people elected a legislature, the legislature should be able to redistrict. And we have a good system in place whenever legislatures redistrict. I mean, in New York, whenever they did a map and the Supreme Court struck it down because they say it's not fair. That's checks and balances that our great founding fathers put inside the United States Constitution. And a lot of states have enhanced that and added checks and balances to their constitutions in the state. So I think that redistricting honestly should go to the state legislatures. I think having an independent commission to do so is taking us into the wrong direction, because I think really checks and balances. State legislature writes it, Supreme Court looks at it if there's any funny business, and they strike it down. I think it's a great system to have, honestly.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
You took my hands. I think it's great. I mean, I think they put those checks and balances in place to be able to have everything where it needs to be. Redistricting should be in our house. We should be able to redistrict as we see fit because we live here. I'm not a career politician, and so I don't want to redistrict to try to open up my region to make it bigger so I can push more legislation in. I want to have it district for the people, because our job as state legislatures is to make your life better. And so I want to get to know the people where I am. I don't want to have a large district and I won't be able to touch and talk to the people and be able to see what their needs is to help them. So I don't think we should get into all this redistricting and things like that.
All right, Mr. Muchmore.
More time to repeat the question.
There continue to be efforts nationwide to shift the power to redistrict legislative boundaries from state legislatures to citizens' commissions. How do you believe redistricting should be handled?
I think we need to stop listening to some of the nationwide pushes that don't affect us here in Oklahoma. I think it's a lot of noise, and I think it's a lot of distraction. I think here in Oklahoma, we need to focus on what's happening here in Oklahoma. I personally haven't seen the push for that. We've got districts for the House, districts for the Senate, over 100 in the House of Representatives. If I need to get a hold of my House representative, I can get on the phone, get an email, I can get a response. The districts are just shy of 40,000 people. I think that is sufficient. I think we're working in a direction. I think there's a lot bigger fish to catch out there than try to redirect and focus on redistricting at this point. We're looking at, if you're under 50, you don't remember the Jimmy Carter days. I remember them. I was a youngster, but I remember the fist fights in the line to get gasoline. We've got massive out of control inflation going on. We've got people that are having difficulty putting food on their table. We've got a legislature right now that's failing to follow through with at least some immediate mitigation by reducing the grocery tax. There's a lot bigger things going on right now. We've got safety in our schools. We've got first responders that need better pay. We need coordination between them. I think we need to turn inward a little bit and focus on the things that are affecting us immediately and intensely right now before we shift to some out-of-state desire to redistrict.
All right, Mr. Muchmore. Common education funding continues to be a hot button issue, with the legislature increasing the education budget by about 1% for next fiscal year. Do you believe this was an appropriate funding decision?
I always think that more funding for the schools is vital. It needs to be spent efficiently. But if you look at the basics of any community, ours here in Stillwater is fabulous. It's probably a diamond in the middle of rural Oklahoma to look around. Our teachers are treated pretty good, but they need to be treated better. We have good pay for our teachers here, but I've still known a number of teachers. It's a career for them. They love the kids. They want to teach the kids. They want to stay with the kids, but ultimately they have to do what's best for their family. And sometimes that includes crossing the state line to get a dramatic increase in pay. We need to pay our teachers better. We need to pay our first responders better. That is the basis of our community. And if we create a community where we have the best first responders, we have the best teachers, that is a foundation that just can't be matched. That's going to take us even further than we already are. We're a very desirable community to be in. We've got a university and a city right next to us. We've got the best of both worlds just right here within Stillwater. And District 34 contains most of it. It's a great place to be.
All right, Mr. Baughman.
Well, before I look to increasing teacher pay, and by increasing teacher pay, it also increases taxes. Not a lot of people want to talk about that, but I want to have a conversation about how we spend the money. I mean, like I said, Cindy Bird blew off a scandal, $200,000 being embezzled. That's one county and one department out of 520. Imagine how much money is being wasted and embezzled in it. I think we need to have complete audits of every single county and every single school district. We need to make sure that the money is being spent wisely. And frankly, if we have a lot of people making six-figure salaries being administrators of school districts, how come our teachers are making $40,000? That I feel like is outrageous. We just need to make sure that we have checks and balances of where the money is spent. And I think that the legislature really needs to pass anti-corruption laws that actually fit with the times that we're in, because we have a lot with electronic payments, we have easy pay, we have pay stubs. We need to make sure that we have corruption laws that fit with the times that we're in, to make sure that education dollars get put into places that affect our children and our teachers, not bloated administration costs.
Mr. Johnson.
I'm just gonna give not a political answer. I'm gonna give a real answer. Working in the school system, you know, one thing that never gets cut is athletics. And I think athletics never gets cut, but you have teachers who get cut. People who work in the lunchroom. I work in the school system. I see these people on an everyday basis who they're teachers. I'm gonna date myself, who used to work at Blockbuster inside the place. And you know what that looks like to be a teacher and to go to a student goes to Blockbuster and see their teacher. That's not good. And so because we don't pay teachers enough, they have to get second jobs, which they can't put all their focus on educating our children because they have to pick up a second job. I think that's unfair. They're highly educated. They go in there to work to teach our children. And I think they should have a salary that shows the respect that we have for the position that they're taking. I think more money should go to teachers. I believe that we should put back in place those home ec classes and woodshop classes, to have those inside the school so kids can get, every kid's not going to go to college. Some wants to have tech jobs. We need to put those back in the school. We have money. I mean, they say lottery money is supposed to go to schools. They say different things supposed to go into school. Where is that money? Where is that money? So we need to figure out where is that money and put it in the place that it was allotted for, to make sure that teachers get what they need, that security in school gets what they need, principals and the different people that work with our children on an everyday basis. We need to make sure that the school system is getting what they need.
All right, Mr. Johnson, this is a long one, so listen carefully. Senate Joint Resolution 43 would have put to the voters a proposal to abolish the 55-year-old Judicial Nominating Commission, created after Supreme Court justices were caught up in tax fraud and bribery scandals. The commission has been criticized for a lack of transparency, and the courts have been criticized by some Republicans for overturning many Republican-push laws. SJR 43 would have put more power in the hands of the governor in the judicial nominating process. Do you think this is a good idea?
Or can this section do the first part and we just go around? Y'all tell me that again. I don't want to ask you to repeat it, but I think that as we go through legislation and things happen on the left side, that they're pushing things that are destroying the minds of our children. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna stay right there. And I think that the Republicans have a very moral standpoint on things that need to get passed in, and they get bumped out. And I think that I hope I'm answering this right, but I believe that our governor should have the power to be able to sign things into law that are for a moral standpoint and not just something bringing it into, I'm probably way off of this question because it's very long, but just to be able to push things through at an easier pace. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I understood. So.
All right, Mr. Muchmore. And I can repeat the question if you'd like.
You bet. Let it rip.
All right. Senate Joint Resolution 43 would have put to the voters a proposal to abolish the 55-year-old Judicial Nominating Commission, created after Supreme Court justices were caught up in tax fraud and bribery scandals. The commission has been criticized for a lack of transparency, and the courts have been criticized by some Republicans for overturning many Republican-pushed laws. SGR 43 would have put more power in the hands of the governor in the judicial nominating process. Do you believe this is a good idea?
I think transparency is the key behind all of this. The ability of us, the people, the residents of Oklahoma, to see through what is happening without getting stonewalled on getting this information. You see a lot of freedom of information acts, a lot of them are coming from this community right now, and things are dragged along. And with the position of technology now, we should be able to get that information very quickly, very rapidly. The way the commission was set up, appointees by the governor, inherently, I don't see a big problem with that. I'm a big election guy. I like to see vacant seats. I like them to go back to the people to be filled by somebody, not a sitting board. Governor is coming through. He might be there 4 years. He might be there 8 years. He has the right, I believe, on both sides to implement to his best ability the direction that he wants the state to go here in Oklahoma. Now, the appointments of those judges, sometimes we're going to agree with them, sometimes we're going to disagree with them. But the fact is, it will have an immediate effect, possibly. Hopefully, we elect a governor that is a fair governor that is going to independently appoint judges that are going to make independent decisions along the moral standards of that governor. So really, I think the general public being able to see what's going on, have access to that information, and have the transparency is really the key behind all of that.
All right, Mr. Baughman.
I'm going to give a short answer. I think that governor nominates a Supreme Court justice and the judge, and the Senate, state Senate, confirms them. I think it should mirror how we do it federally. And I think that, again, that the founding fathers put that in, and it's a genius move. It has checks and balances. But I also think this is a what you do about nothing. I think it's an easy solution. Governor appoints and the Senate confirms. But again, Oklahomans want to talk about why the Chinese Communist Party is infiltrating our farmlands, bringing in all these drugs. We have drugs coming into this country, and it's not doing anything about that. We have enough fentanyl coming into the United States that can kill Americans 7 times over. I think Oklahomans want to talk about that and how we can stop these people from infiltrating our farmlands and bringing in these drugs into Oklahoma. I just think we just need to have conversations like that. And like I said, governor nominates, Senate confirms. I think it's that simple.
All right, Mr. Baughman. The proposal to eliminate the state portion of the grocery sales tax did not pass out of the legislature. The governor has called the legislature back into special session to address this tax and to again cut personal income taxes. Do you agree with either of these proposals from the governor?
I'm a little queasy on that because I don't like anything being rushed. I think calling a special session into it and drafting resolutions to decrease the sales tax, and I'm all for that, but I want to make sure that it's carefully crafted. I just think that we need to take a pause and actually look at the policies that will affect average Oklahomans. So I don't like rush stuff. I think, like I said, we just need to carefully draft it. That's all I know about that, and that's all I'm actually going to say, because I just don't like rush stuff. It really bugs me, and there's just something about it that I just don't like.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, what I know about it is that the governor was trying to bring in a new, he's putting up money allotted to Panasonic coming in that's going to build electric batteries for Oklahoma City. So he's trying to hold off on doing a grocery tax or tax and cut tax money because he's trying to bring jobs here. Now, my personal opinion, what I believe, is that it's a catch-22, meaning that if we bring new jobs here, we could get more people with better salaries, which will help the taxes in the long run. If we just give out a tax cut, then you don't bring new jobs in, then guess what happens? You have nobody to be able to have enough money to be able to still buy groceries. Inflations are still going up. Things are still happening. And I think that we should bring in new jobs, just like Stillwater just got the new energy plan. I mean, these new jobs that's coming in, they're going to help us in the long run. These major companies that's coming in, they're going to help with the taxes in the long run. So I believe that we need to bring more companies in to help with the taxes, so we won't have to have lower taxes in the long run. We're going to have to pay for it anyway. So I think that I agree with the governor. I'll say that.
All right, Mr. Muchmore.
I think lowering taxes is always a good thing. The 4.5% portion of the sales tax that goes towards groceries, we're one of 13 states that state taxes the groceries. I remember as a youth traveling up north, I think it was in the Minnesota area, went in to buy groceries and there was no tax on it. I was digging in my little pocket to hand out some tax money. And I said, no, there's no tax. And I was confounded. And when I come back home, our groceries are being taxed. The lowering of the income tax. Let's do that. Our budget, we're carrying forward like $3 billion in our rainy day funds for our budget. We can afford it. Lower taxes mean let the government tighten their belt. We see fraud, we see duplication of services. There's very little that the government does that the free market, that us as individuals can't do. That's what we were designed to do. We're Oklahomans. We came out here into the middle of the wilderness, just not much more than, I said much more, not much more than 100 years ago. And we can do that. And we don't need Big Brother looking at us. We don't need every action we take. We don't need to pause and look up to see, how's the government going to take care of this? How are they going to help me? Let's lower those taxes. Let's reduce some of the exorbitant spending. Let's spend it more efficient. Let's keep the government where it's at. We don't need a bigger government. We need smaller, more efficient government. Let's get those taxes down and move forward.
All right, Mr. Muchmore, what are your ideas for diversifying the state economy so that we better smooth out the boom bust cycles of the oil and gas industry?
The first thing that comes to mind about the bust and the boom of the oil and gas industry here in Oklahoma is what we're experiencing countrywide right now is intentional. The gas prices, federal administration went in, they made no bones about it. We're going to destroy the oil and gas industry because they had a plan to put everybody into an electric car that costs 2 or 3 times as much as the old truck that we drive now. Diversifying the economy, great idea. Even if the current crisis that we're facing with oil and gas wasn't created by the feds, we've seen it over the years. Like I mentioned before, the Jimmy Carter days with the rationing of gas, people running up with gas cans trying to get it before the underground tank was empty. Diversifying is a great thing. Creating a community, a state that is attractive to companies to come into, safe for our families, safe for our kids, good education. And what that means is paying our teachers more, paying our first responders more, getting them in communication with each other. That's what's attractive to companies to come into. Everybody says it's lower taxes. Well, let's lower the taxes as well. And I'm all for that. So we've got a great company that's coming in now with rare earth mineral batteries, reportedly the first one of its kind in the nation to reduce our reliance on foreign dependency on those items for our electronics. So diversification is great, but I think we need to realize that a bust right now is being brought upon us by Washington, D.C.
Mr. Baughman.
Yeah, so number one, to increase the diversity of our economy is to bring back trade into our schools. I think public university is great, but I think they have a monopoly on our high school kids. We need to make sure that they have an equal level playing field with trade schools and apprenticeships. I've been talking to so many voters around Stillwater, and they said, I can't find a plumber, or a contractor is 6 months out because they don't have any employees. That is how you diversify Oklahoma's economy, by bringing back those essential trade jobs. I mean, imagine if in a school, you can have a local company or a local small business come in and say, I want you to work for me one summer, and if you like it, I can hire you after you graduate, or you can start your own business. We need to make sure we're teaching our kids the blessing of the United States, which is entrepreneurship. We need to make sure we teach them how to live the American dream. And I think the American dream was taken from our schools. They're cogs in a machine, and we need to make sure that we bring back entrepreneurship inside our schools, how to start a small business, That is how I diversify an economy, to bring up a new generation of hardworking, working class American citizens. That is how you do it.
Mr. Johnson.
I think diversity is wonderful. That's my opinion. But I believe the economy is pushing us into technology. I'm originally from Michigan. And when I worked at General Motors in the early 2000s, they told us in the early 2000s that by 2025, we are no longer making gas cars. We're only making electric cars. And they told us that in a meeting in General Motors. And what are they doing? That's where they're going. And so we're trying to diversify. But the only thing we can do on the legislative branch is try to slow that process down. We can't stop companies from doing what they're doing because they're going to push this electric car. It's coming. General Motors said it. Chrysler said it. Ford said it. They're the major motor companies in the United States. And they're saying that we're going to stop making gas cars. So they're going to do it. Nothing you can do to stop them. The only thing we can do is try to push in Stillwater, in the heart of Stillwater, small businesses, to keep this place a place of family, keep Stillwater a place that's still the American dream, and having where you can go get a plumber and not have to push a button and a robot come. I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's coming. You know, a robot plumber coming or this come. That's what they're trying to move to. They're trying to get out of human interaction. They're trying to get out of that. And I'm sorry, I'm putting you in my conspiracy theory mind, but that's just where the United States is trying to head. They're trying to head to everything is computers. And I think that we need to get back to the American dream.
Preacher was getting on a roll.
I was.
All right, now we're going to proceed to closing statements in the opposite order of opening statements. Mr. Muchmore, you have 90 seconds.
DaRan mentioned robots. Did you see they're looking at putting robot umpires in Major League Baseball to make the calls for balls or strikes? Half the fun's yelling at the umpire, right? The way I look at Oklahoma in my country, I think we've got an amazing foundation. Okay, look at the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created, followed by the Constitution with the Bill of Rights. The Oklahoma Constitution, the preamble to that, if you've ever read the preamble, we invoke the guidance of Almighty God. Love that statement. You can't say it enough. We are being treated by Washington, D.C. like they don't care about us. But you know what? Part of that Bill of Rights, the 10th Amendment, gives us a lot more rights than we have enforced. The federal government's been coming at us, regulating us, treating us like California, treating us like New York or Illinois. We're different. We're right here in the middle of the United States and rural America. We need to stand by and reinforce that 10th Amendment. We need to eliminate. A lot of people say all the funds from the feds come with strings attached. I say they come with a stranglehold attached. We need to cut that off and force our 10th Amendment. And we need to be able to make our own decisions, and we legally and constitutionally are allowed to do that. And just like the preamble to the Constitutions of Oklahoma says, I invoke the guidance of Almighty God every day. And I hope that's the path and the voice that I can have for you guys. Please vote for Andrew Muchmore. You can vote today. You can vote Tuesday, anytime in between. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Johnson, 90 seconds.
I don't think I need that long. I like this place. I like Stillwater. I come from a very hard place. I come from Flint, Michigan. And when I moved here to Stillwater, it's like I moved to heaven. I moved to a place where everybody was nice to each other. People talk to each other. People care about each other. And I like this place. And I feel like what's happening is big government is trying to come in and take our freedoms from us. And I won't allow that. I won't stand by and the place that I moved to, the place that I like, where I know my neighbors, where we wave at each other, that when I go on vacation, they watch my house, I watch their house. I like this place. And so I want to keep this place the same way it is, to stay here, to have the freedom for children, not to be bombarded with drag queens and homosexuality, not to be bombarded and try to take the power from the parents. I think I like this place and I want to keep it the way it is. So my name is DaRan Johnson. And when you leave this place and go vote for me, I thank you already. And I thank you for voting on Tuesday. You guys have a nice day because I like this place.
All right, Mr. Baughman, you have the last word.
So the number one issue and the number one fighting spirit that a state legislature should have is to stand up to overreaching federal government. I do not care if it is Biden's big government. I don't care if it's Trump's big government. I don't care if it's the Bush big government. We should always stand up to the federal government. And I think that, like my opponents have said, that we need to stop getting strings attached. I mean, you see the Biden administration cutting off school lunch funds because we don't allow boys to enter girls' restrooms. I think we need to make sure that Oklahoma picks up the bill and stands up to the federal government. I think that the state legislature should really enforce the power of the 10th Amendment. I mean, you look at Ron DeSantis in Florida, whether you like him or you don't like him, it is a fact that he is standing up to the federal government and he's winning. We need to be more like that. We need to make sure that we elect a fighter conservative that will stand up for states' rights, whether it is a Democrat in DC or a Republican in DC. We need to make sure that we stand up for states' rights and the citizens of Oklahoma, and frankly, the working class of Oklahoma that DC is trying to gut out of Oklahoma. And please vote for Michael Baughman today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Monday and Tuesday.
Just Tuesday.
Just Tuesday. Tuesday, no Monday. Yeah. Don't illegally vote. I'm not endorsing that. Do not illegally vote. But I'm very ask humbly for you to vote for me and bring change in Oklahoma and elect a fighter that'll stand up for Oklahoma's rights. Thank you all so much for putting on this event.
Thanks to each of you for being here today. The June 28 primary election or the August 23 runoff election, if necessary, will determine the winner of the Republican nomination. The winner will face Trish Ranson in the November general election. The candidates will be available for a few minutes at the conclusion of our meeting. Thanks again, guys.